Good morning, everyone. My name is Monique Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Forward Operating Base Hope, or FOB Hope, and I will be hosting this morning. And of course, we're going to start with Rosemary. Rosemary, are you there?
I'm here and I'm ready to get started. So welcome everybody to our open table where we connect with respect to advocate for safe and secure housing for all. We gratefully acknowledge that we meet on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people who have lived in this area since the beginning of time and are still here today. Tomorrow at 11 in the morning, the tribe will celebrate the Medicine Creek Treaty tree planting ceremony at Chief Leslie School, remembering the history of the treaty and continuing their commitment as stewards of the earth. I'll put more information about that in the chat. Today, as we continue to mark Women's History Month and respond to the continuing humanitarian crisis in our community, I'm inspired by rebellious Black women. 110 years ago, on March 10th, 1913, Harriet Tubman died. This day is marked every year to honor her contribution to assisting enslaved people to secure their freedom. Using haiku, the poet Sonia Sanchez invites us to imagine Tubman in the midst of her work. She says, "Picture a woman riding thunder on the legs of slavery. Picture her kissing our spines, saying no to the eyes of slavery. Picture her rotating the earth into a shape of lives, becoming. Picture this woman saying no to the constant yes of slavery." This picturing inspired another young woman on another day in March in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, to say no to bus segregation. 15-year-old Claudette Colvin attended Booker T. Washington High School. She'd been politicized by horrific racist treatment of a classmate and had just written a paper on the problems of downtown segregation. On the bus home that day, the white section filled up. A white woman was left standing and the driver called out. 3 students sitting in Colvin's row got up, but Colvin refused. "We'd been studying the Constitution," she explained. "I knew I had rights." She was forcibly removed from the bus, charged with disturbing the peace and breaking the segregation law, and with assault on the officers who arrested her. 9 months later, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in a similar incident, sparking the bus boycott and launching a major civil rights movement. I offer this story today both to note the courage of a teenager in the face of injustice, whose defiant action was well known then, but mostly unacknowledged now, and because of connection to Harriet Tubman. When people asked Claudette why she didn't move from her seat that day, she said, "I could not move because history had me glued to the past. It felt like Sojourner Truth's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder, and Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on another shoulder, and I could not move." For a bit of more historical context, Claudette had been a member of the NAACP Youth Council before the arrest and continued to attend youth council meetings. The charge of breaking segregation law had been dropped, so her case could not challenge that law. Rosa Parks made Colvin secretary of the council, trying to nurture the young woman's spirit and budding leadership. Now, at age 84, she's a retired nurse's aide living in Alabama in 2021, but planned to move to be with her family in Texas. In her haiku and Tanaka for Harriet Tubman, Sonia Sanchez offers more images that could have increased that pushing down on Claudette's shoulders, a pushing down that raised up a movement. Speaking of Harriet, Sanchez invites us to picture her ripe with seasonings of legs, running. Picture her tasting the secret corners of woods. Picture her saying, "You have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world." Imagine her words, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer." Imagine her saying, "I freed 1,000 slaves, could have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves." Imagine her humming, "How many days we got before we taste freedom." To center us this morning, I ask that you take a moment of silence to remember rebellious women in your life now, or women you've learned about as Claudette learned about Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, who have glued you to your seat in resistance, a resistance that then raises you up for action. So let's just take a moment to think about those important women we know about or in our lives. So Tubman defied for freedom. Claudette heard her message and acted. And today we are all riding this unjust bus of society together. These rebellious Black women show us a powerful way to be, and we know there's a lot of staying glued and raising up that needs to happen before people needing housing are free to live secure and safe. So welcome to the ride. And good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. That was beautiful. I live on their shoulders. Okay, so right now we're going to go to This Week on the Streets.
Well, just
if anyone
before we
has-
do this, Monique,
Uh-oh.
just in case I could say the norms for the group,
Yes, ma'am. Go with the norms.
Pausing for a minute there. I'm going to put them in the chat. Rob usually does it, but we'll see if it works here for me to do it. I think it's going to work fine. So we asked for those of you who are new, who may not know our norms, and just a reminder to all that we use the raise hand function when we want to be recognized. That helps the people doing the facilitating to know who's there, because we're the largest group. We have 58 now in the room. Also, keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, and stop your video if you're doing things that are distracting, but we invite you to put your video on as much as possible so that we see you at least in the little screens of Zoom. So those are the main norms for there. We use the chat for discussion and conversation and to share information. So it's not disrespectful to carry on conversations there. You can save the chat, and we do save that ourselves. So it's available to you to reach out to people who may have things to offer or maybe needing things that you have. So with that, we usually take a little time to let anyone who's new say hello and just say your name and where you're from, or in terms of a group. But not for a long introduction, because we'll do those when we have time to do it. And if you are part of a new group that would like to share who you are with us, we like to provide opportunities for people to do that. So just let us know that as well. So with Monique and me looking at the screen here, if anyone's new and wants to just say hello, and otherwise you can post your information in the chat as well. Oh, Faith, go ahead.
Hello, I wanted to reintroduce myself because I've been absent due to health issues, but my name is Faith and I'm a student attending UW-T, and I've been collaborating with the coalition on behalf of Ignite National, a nonprofit organization. I actually now no longer work there, but I'm still trying to advocate for housing justice, and I have an opportunity about a grant from the University of Washington that could be used to help with mutual aid outreach that I'll be sharing in the good trouble section of the agenda.
Thank you, Faith. Good to have you back, and I hope you feel better. Nikki.
Hi, my name is Nikki Davidson. I am the Senior Director at the Bryan Neighborhood Center, and I will be sharing a little bit more in the spotlight later this morning.
Welcome, Nikki. It's great to have you. Dion.
Good morning. I've been meaning to come to this for a long time. I used to work a long time ago with Martin Luther King Ecumenical in a collaborative program with comprehensive mental health, doing outreach to the mentally ill homeless. And I just loved it so much. That's when Nativity House was a little cubby hole on Commerce back in the day, and then did a little bit of emergency shelter a few years ago. And just coming to see what's going on and if I'm supposed to be jumping in here.
Maybe there's some pushing down on your shoulders going to happen. Thank you, Dion, for coming. Okay, Monique, I'll give it back to you.
All
If
right,
anyone else wants to introduce themselves, put your information in the chat.
Okay, thank you. For those of you who are new, I am not the regular host. So if you're sitting here thinking, God, this meeting sucks, it's because I'm not the regular host, okay? All right. Next, we're going to do This Week on the Streets. So if you have any information about things that are happening on the streets, you can speak up now and let us all know what's going on. Verna.
Good morning, everybody. So y'all know that 5th Street was swept. They're putting up a chain link fence all the way down the street. That's the street behind the post office. The encampment that's up at the top of 39th Street on the top of the hill has also been swept, which is why you're seeing more homeless people on 38th Street. I was there every day for a week at 39th Street with the campers and was there when they were swept. It was very quiet. There weren't any confrontations with the police. And it was very sad. So 39th Street's gone now too.
Thank you. Anyone else? No one? No one seen anything on the streets?
I don't have any important updates, but I do have a question I was hoping to get answered. I
Okay.
was wondering if anybody could share their experiences or any resources to help me learn more about the city sanction encampments, just what your opinions are or how I can get connected with that, because I think it would be a good option for some of my clients. I am the housing coordinator for the True Blood Jail Diversion Program at
Abiola, if
Greater
you
Lakes.
put your information in the chat
hmm
so that people can reach out to you, that
Yeah,
would be great. And if
I'll do
anybody
that.
wants to reach out to her, please put your information in the chat and let her know that you'll contact her.
Thank
You're
you.
up to speed. You're welcome. Thank you. Well, I want to say one thing about the streets. The city of Tacoma has given me a contract. So Fob Hopes Veterans Village has a contract. They've paid the first 2 months of the year so we can pay some taxes. So we are good to go through July. Okay, seeing no one else, we are going to the inclement weather section for supplies. So the question is, do you have any supplies to share or do you have any needs? And I know there's a list somewhere. Maybe Jay can talk about that list.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to grab it as I'm talking real quick. We have a need share for outreach and otherwise. Currently, we are out of inclement weather, and we will be hopefully staying out of that for a while. Let's cross our fingers. We are starting to plan for hot weather, and likewise, we're hoping that doesn't happen immediately as well. It's most likely going to be later in March, beginning of April, that we see more drastic. Outside of inclement weather, please add your needs and shares to this list, and we will do our best as a community to help you out where we can. During inclement weather, we do get a little bit more backup from certain agencies, so feel free to add that. That's as a, hey, we noticed we needed this in the middle of an inclement weather event and could have used it before the actual event happened. And the more that we document these things, the more we can prepare for the next set of inclement weather. So right now we're looking at finishing up and maintaining our winter weather, inclement weather supply, and then adding things like tarps and solar fans and towels to keep people cool, and we're going to work on cooling stations from here until September. So we have about 6-month turnaround, and we're starting to look at flipping it.
Thank you. Can you drop the link for that list in the chat by any chance?
There it is.
All right. You're good, Jay. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to the community spotlight. And we have Nikki Davidson from Bryan Neighborhood Center. Nikki, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces. This is my first time on the call because I am the new-ish senior director at the Bryan Neighborhood Center, which is located on the lower floor of Trinity Presbyterian Church on the north end of the hilltop in Tacoma. So right behind Mimo's, across from Southern Kitchen. It's been there for 130 years and has always had a deep love for our unhoused neighbors, and it has been considered a safe place to receive help these many years. But we have just come through a 6-year renovation. So what was previously maybe more connected with the church with Trinity outreach programs has now come under the umbrella of the Bryan Neighborhood Center. So we have a special commitment to the 25 blocks immediately surrounding the Bryan Neighborhood Center. But our belief and our model is that as we partner with other organizations, we can go deep in our neighborhood to care for the entire 98405 Hilltop area and beyond. So with a particular focus on the things that we do with our unhoused neighbors, I wanted to draw your attention to our Thursday night meal. We call it Warm Meal and Conversation. It's from 5 to 7 at the BNC. It's a drop-in meal where people can get not only a warm meal, but several other meals to take with them if they so choose. We have lots of families that stop in, and then a lot of regulars. So even last week, we had somebody who had just been they just had a tiny house made available to them, and they showed up with all these cords because they wanted to connect with the internet, and they knew that the BNC would have faithful volunteers who would help them figure that out. And so one of the volunteers ran home, came back with all the cords they have, and together they sat for 2 hours and walked through the directions of how to get that connected. So it's a very friendly place, I would say, with a lot of regulars. At that meal on the Thursday evenings, people can also put in requests for specific clothing items. So we used to have a really big clothing bank, which we don't have anymore. We still maintain winter essentials. And then people, if they need a specific size of work boots or a specific size of black pants, they can come on a Thursday night, put in their request, and then the next week we will have those available for our guests. I also wanted you to know about Front Door. So next to the Bryan Neighborhood Center is what used to be the old manse. It's called Trinity House, and that's where critical needs can come. So that's utility assistance, that's bus passes, that's washing machine tokens. It's not great for ongoing needs, but for emergency needs, super helpful. And again, if you are in the 98405, that makes it very easy to connect you with those resources. Also, there's always emergency food available at that site. That is also where the free medical clinic is, the Trinity Neighborhood Clinic. That takes place on Tuesday nights from 5 to 7, also a drop-in clinic. It's really a partner to the neighborhood clinic at St. Leo's, although we don't have any specialists. So it's more like a triage. We do a lot of free physicals for any of the McKinney-Vento students. We have $100 a month of prescription care available for anybody who has ongoing needs. So that's often diabetes care. And we do make house visits once you're a patient of record if mobility is an issue. So there are only 2 free medical clinics in Tacoma, and I feel like this is one of the undiscovered gems that's just really helpful to know and to be able to refer people to. I will say that the line starts to develop at about 4, and they will go till 7. And then sometimes people do need to go back. So if there is a need, it's worth getting there a little early. We also have a Spanish translator available on site at the Tuesday night medical clinic. I also wanted just to draw your attention to the fact that we are a beautiful space that is really meant for the community. So this year we are hosting Associated Ministries community meetings to solve homelessness. The next one is on May 18th. I also wanted to let you know that this might be an a great partnership opportunity for you and the organizations you're involved in. If you have community meetings that you're interested in that would benefit from having a location in that corner of the hilltop, we would love to talk. We have a lot of grassroots efforts that are leveraging the space to have even a deeper impact in the community. So we'd love to have you come along, come see us on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, or just come visit and see the space and see if there might be a way that we can partner together.
Terrific, Nikki. First of all, in the chat, one of our folks missed the location. So can you give that location
Sure.
again?
It's at 1615 6th Avenue, right at the triangle of Division and 6th, behind Mimo's.
So funny, I couldn't picture it. And then when you said Southern Kitchen, I'm like, oh, okay, I got it.
that is a landmark. Many people know that.
Okay, so questions for Nikki. I see Teresa has her hand raised. Teresa, go ahead.
So first, when I talked with Nikki on the phone and she was telling me about these things, I thought, man, oh man, there is a boatload of stuff that this tiny church is trying. I mean, it's a sizable church, but it's one church doing a lot of good stuff. So first, thank you for that. And then I have, excuse me, some people are asking about the address. So when we're all finished, Nikki, could you post your information in there? And then I have a question. I didn't realize there were any house calls that were happening. Do they make tent calls?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't think it would be beyond. I mean, these volunteer medical providers are very amazing. So I think it would be an interesting question. I think we would have to develop the relationships, the being a patient of record. So that would be the first step. And then to see where things went from there, I think there's a possibility.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nikki? Okay, I don't see any other questions. Nikki, thank you very much. You're a great resource. And actually, what I want to ask is if anybody knows of great resources, like people who really do what they say they're going to do when you send folks over, drop it in the chat so you can help out other folks. Okay, next I'm going to turn it over to Janet so she can introduce our next speaker. Janet.
Good morning. This conversation is going in a great direction already. I've known Trinity Free Clinic for decades now. I think they've been there for over 25 years. They, along with Neighborhood Free Clinic, along with Project Access, maybe we'll have in the future another section on how to have a deeper relationship and partnership to include street medics. So that's a great idea for the future. But getting back to our featured program today, we've been talking about the cliff that is facing our population. Those of us who are living precariously have some scary things on the horizon. Last week we heard about the Medicaid program being discontinued if people do not know to sign up again. So Medicaid care is fragile now for a lot of folks. But as a public health nurse, my biggest belief is in prevention. So prevention of homelessness means to bolster the safety nets that can keep folks where they are so they don't fall off cliffs into homelessness. A major expense for people is food. So one of our more successful homelessness prevention programs are food banks. Pierce County is lucky to have some amazing food banks. So when we heard that there was a danger to the SNAP program, I reached out to Sue Potter, the executive director of Nourish Food Banks, who said, if you want to know about food banks and SNAP and all that stuff, you got to talk to Christina Wong from Northwest Harvest. So it is with great pleasure that I am introducing Christina Wong. Take it away. Give us some good news, please.
Oh, well, then I hate to be the bearer of bad news, really. I feel like I am the voice of doom these days. So, but thank you for sharing what Sue said. That has at least made my day. So I am so here's unfortunately what's been happening with SNAP this month. And thank you for that introduction, Janet. So during the pandemic, starting very early on, Congress had authorized what was called emergency SNAP allotments. This raised the benefit levels because normally, I think people understand, right, that normally the way SNAP benefits work is your household amount is determined based on a combination of what your household size is and then what your net income is. The further away you are from the poverty line, then the higher your benefits are along that spectrum of your household size. So what the emergency SNAP allotments did was it said that every household that's on SNAP, regardless of how far, what your net income is, every household is going to get the maximum benefit amount for their household size. And that has continued for the last 2.5 years. Until December, when Congress was putting together their appropriations package for the end of the year. This was news to us. We did not know that this kind of cut was being discussed to be on the table. But while the appropriations package did one good thing around wanting to expand what's called summer EBT. You might remember this as the pandemic EBT program that was in effect during the pandemic, where every student who is eligible for a free reduced price meal, their family was given an EBT card with money to spend on groceries to make up for meals that were missed while schools were closed during COVID. If that was based on a pilot program called Summer EBT, which did that during the summer months pre-pandemic. So on the one hand, we're really grateful to Congress that they finally said summer EBT has been proven effective and we want to expand that nationwide. And we are going to start give every student who's eligible for free and reduced price meals $65 per month while schools are closed during the summer months so that their families can have grocery assistance. They decided that the way they were going to pay for that was to end the emergency SNAP allotments early. So it's totally the robbing Peter to pay Paul situation. You have a program that is designed to help low-income households, and you're taking money from another program that's helping low-income households. So we weren't thrilled about that. So that is why, when they ended the authorization for the emergency SNAP allotments last month. February was the last month that states could be authorized to do that. So Washington is one of 32 states that had still been able to continue to do the emergency SNAP allotments. And this is the first month that people are having benefits that are going back to what their benefits were before the pandemic. There's a slight boost to it than what they were seeing pre-pandemic because there was a change to how SNAP, the formula that's used to calculate SNAP benefits. But at the end of the day, given high food costs, in fact, there was a study that just came out this past weekend that food costs have jumped another 12% in January alone. So at the end of the day, what this means is that the average loss in benefits is about, in Washington state, is about $82 per person in a household. We are really, really concerned about people who are eligible for what's called the minimum benefit. This is usually low-income seniors and people with disabilities who have a fixed income provided by Social Security, and they are living by themselves. And so that combination of household size and having an income that in theory is not producing as much in deductions to calculate SNAP benefits, they qualify for what's just called the minimum benefit. And their benefits are actually dropping from over $200 per month to just $23 per month. So, So it's also hitting us at a time that food banks were already struggling to keep up with the demand. High costs of food, high costs of gas, high costs of housing, other costs of living. Those are all taxing on household budgets. And so we've been seeing more people coming to food bank doors. Also, the loss of those temporary federal resources means that there's less resources to help people make ends meet. So lines have been longer at food bank doors for the last few months. And at the same time, the global food shortage that's being exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. Also, the high costs of food have made it more difficult for food banks to be able to be competitive with larger scale retailers when we're trying to buy food to stock our shelves. And the donation streams have been disrupted, both by individual households who are just trying to make ends meet for themselves, as well as small businesses that we have relied on for donations. They are trying to keep their heads above water, and it's meant that they've been exploring more options to sell more of their food than making food available for donations. So that combined effect has meant that it's not just Northwest Harvest, but the other food distributors in our state, Food Lifeline serving Western Washington and Second Harvest serving Eastern Washington. We have all been experiencing a severe decrease in our food inventory. Northwest Harvest, our inventory is currently 80% lower than what it was this time last year. So our partners on the ground, food banks, have been asking if we can help them meet the demand by giving them more food. And unfortunately, we don't have food to increase. And so we've been trying to maintain consistent levels of food going out the door so that nobody goes empty-handed. But we're really at this really terrible juncture of high demand, and the high costs of food and gas are also impacting our ability to stock food bank shelves. Here's where some good news is coming in, though. Now that I've been Debbie Downer and explained that whole forecast, some good news is that the legislature is working right now to respond to this immediate crisis on the ground. There's a bill, House Bill 1784. This is an early action targeted food package, meaning that it is supplemental funds on this current budget year, because the state budget year ends June 30th. So for the next few months. And we as advocates worked closely with state agencies and legislators and the governor's office to identify we can't backfill the loss of the SNAP benefits at the state level, because that's $93 million per month that's going away in food assistance. So what are some parts of the food safety net that could use an infusion of dollars and get money into resources and resources on the ground as quickly as possible? By April is our goal. And that's why it's called early action, because rather than waiting until the end of this month when they put out when the Senate and the House put out their budgets for the biennium and also any supplemental changes for this year, if they take action now, then state agencies can get money into contract amendments and those resources out to community programs by April. So this bill, what it does is it is $28 million in total. $20 million would be going to the Department of Agriculture to support food banks, getting food onto shelves. And at the door. And then $6 million would be going to DSHS, the senior meals programs, both the congregate meals, the hot meals for prepared meals for seniors, and home delivered meals. And then $2 million would go to the Department of Health for the produce match. This is when people are spending SNAP on fruits and vegetables at participating grocery stores, including every Safeway store. You get with this increase, if it goes through, you could get a $10 discount on buying more fruits and vegetables. So that is all resources that the bill passed unanimously off the House floor last Monday. This coming Monday, Ways and Means is having a hearing, and I can put a link in the chat for people to sign in pro. If you have authority on behalf of your organizations or even as an individual showing your support for that. And then like once Ways and Means votes the bill out of the committee, then we would want the Senate to vote on it in the next week or two. So that way this authorizes state agencies to put these monies, to have that money and to put it into resources. So that is what's happening with the immediate response. Looking forward towards larger underlying structural needs that need to be addressed. We have the Farm Bill with Congress this year. They need to do a new Farm Bill by September 30th. The Farm Bill has the nutrition title, and that's what authorizes SNAP. It's our opportunity to be able to make underlying policy changes to SNAP in order to raise benefits, expand access for folks. We have a list of priorities that we're working on just to do just that, including making SNAP benefits more adequate to meet people's abilities to afford basic nutrition, adding funding to those SNAP match programs, also expanding access, particularly when we're looking at folks like people who are working aged, who have significant barriers, including homelessness, to being able to find steady work. The individuals in that category who don't have dependents living with them, they are limited to just 3 months of SNAP benefits within a 3-year time period, unless they're able to show that they are working at least 80 hours per month. So we are, so that's an example of ways that we're trying to expand access to SNAP. I think, of course, the current climate is a little bit more difficult with Republican controlled House that has already been out there saying that they want more work requirements on SNAP, more limitations on SNAP. But our hope at the end of the day is that the Senate will save us, not just because they have a Democratic majority, but because the chair of the Agriculture Committee has always been committed to just having bipartisan policies because they know that they need to have 60 votes in order to pass a bill. And so that has been the controlling factor on really extreme partisan proposals that come from more of the far, the extreme proposals around cutting SNAP in any sort of way. So that's kind of the big picture right now. I see Jay has a hand raised. Do you have any questions for me?
Actually, I wanted to kind of clarify something. So when you are on SNAP and you make money, you get a certain amount dictated by how much you make. And during this pandemic, that allotment was raised to the maximum. We got as much as any household as if they had zero income. And I want to make that clear. Zero income. So if you're a family of 2, you got $519. If you are a family of 3, you got 600 and something. If you're a family of 4, you got 700 and something. So when this goes through, not only are we losing the additional monthly 95 or whatever it may be because of the family value of emergency aid, those families will also lose the increase of their normal benefits back to their allocated amount per income. So there are some people that have like $700 in food stamps that went to $23 this month. And that is something to think about. Like that is $700 out of your bank with the price of meat at the cheapest you can get it being $5 a pound of any meat on sale, on clearance. That's all. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And this is what we mean by it's a significant hunger cliff. And that that there is extreme urgency right now. And at the state level, it doesn't help that we live in a state that has the most regressive tax system, and we still have, and there are, this is where I'm going to get my revenue soapbox for a moment, that there are concrete revenue policy proposals on the table that would increase tax fairness and also raise the available funds to put into investments into not just food, but housing and other critical resources that are needed right now, because we don't have federal money to fall back on to make those investments. And as a result, what we've been, not just in the food sector, but across the spectrum of human services bills, we've been, the theme for this legislative session has primarily been, this is a really good idea, but we can't afford it. And we've seen significant scaling back of bills that, that were designed to meet the crisis and urgency of the moment. Teresa?
I just want to point out that there's some interesting stuff going on in the chat. Hopefully you'll have a chance to look at that. And we are going to have the Food is Free crew coming to talk with us soon. So we'll hear more about that, but there's a way you can help there. And I heard we should support the bills that are coming up that could have an impact on this situation, and probably donate more food to our local food banks. Is there anything else that we can do to help?
I think that is primarily also, I think the other thing that can be done is, if you're hearing, when you're talking with households that get SNAP and hearing about any changes in life circumstances of any kind, really encouraging them to talk with, to call DSHS's call center, or to talk with a benefits attorney, including ones that are provided by legal services. And I know that wait times are really long, and so it's not ideal, but that's another way that we can try to mitigate the impact of the loss in SNAP benefits, is by reporting changes in life circumstances that could potentially, it's not going to be the full replacement of what was being provided by the emergency allotments, but maybe you might be qualified for a higher benefit than what you were receiving before the emergency allotment started. Jay?
So another fun tidbit from living at the bottom of society: if you do not call DSHS by 8:30, you will not talk to them that day. There are 7-hour+ wait lines. They're usually, what happens within the pandemic frame, because of things, you call, and if the wait line is longer than an hour, you will be given the opportunity for a callback. That is not necessarily applicable anymore after 7:30, 8:30 in the morning. If you don't get in there immediately in that window, you will not be heard. So if you have a complaint, a concern, do it in writing, send it not only to your DSHS, but send it also to your senator, your congressman, your what may have you, every person that you can get to that has any say in the matter whatsoever. If you have caseworkers, send it to your caseworkers. If you have jurisdiction people or municipal people, bother them with it. The Willow Project just has gotten slammed through efforts of advocacy, and most likely will be stopped. And that is a huge oil situation up in Alaska. If we can be loud enough, we can get action. But we have to be loud enough, and we have to do it in writing and in ways that it will actually work and fulfill, instead of just going up and being like, hey, I don't like it. We really need to establish some solid, seeable actions.
Agreed, Jay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Christina? And if you don't want to ask it out loud, you can put it in the chat. Thank you to Lori's cat. The cat is chiming in the chat and had a lot to say. All right, what I want to do now is have everyone unmute, please. I'll tell you why in a second. Unmuting. All right, unless you have like a lot of noise in the background. Is everybody unmuted?
Yep.
All right, today, Rob is not here, but it's his birthday, and he's going to watch this recording. So I would like for all of us to sing happy birthday to Rob on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to Rob. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rob.
Happy birthday to you.
Beautiful.
And many
Beautiful.
more.
Beautiful.
Feliz cumpleaños.
Say in unison, we'll sing happy birthday, but I'm sure he
Just
appreciates it
like that.
nonetheless.
Just as beautiful as I expected it to be.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Someone said,
folks
boy,
need
that
more
was
coffee.
that bad.
Need a
It
choir
was
director
bad.
if we do that again.
Christina, it was bad. We'll practice before we do it next time, okay?
We love you, Rob.
That must be a Zoom phenomena.
All right, everybody can mute again. Thank you. Okay, so next, Shaquata Elder, are you here?
I am here.
All right, Shaquata's going to talk to us about Tacoma Rental Code changes. Take it away.
Hi, thank you all for this opportunity. I'm Shaquata Elder with the City of Tacoma's Landlord Tenant Program, and I have the pleasure of working in the Office of Equity and Human Rights, and also is in charge of the Tacoma's Rental Housing Code. And we are in the process of proposing some changes to the Rental Housing Code. And I stuck those in the chat so that you're aware of what the possible changes are. And so, like, during this presentation, since it has to be really quick, I'm just going to ask you to listen in a way to, once we break into our small breakout groups, that you're able to answer the questions. Which ones are you most excited about and which ones you have concerns about? So then that way we are able to gather information. But then also the City of Tacoma is currently in the process. We have a survey out, and we're asking you all to do the survey as a way of community engagement to get feedback from housing providers and renters. And then we are going to have community engagement events that are going to be in person and virtual. And I've listed all of that. And then at that time, we'll be able to get renters, housing providers, housing advocates, and all types of information of anybody that will be affected. So I'm just going to go into the proposed changes. So one of the proposed changes is rent increase notices. As you guys know, in the state of Washington, there's no caps on the amount of rent that a property owner or a housing provider can increase the rent. So currently there is they only required to do a 60-day notice to increase the rent. However, we're seeing rents that are sometimes 100%, and that could be because of a new owner coming in and the rent was below market rate, and then they have a right to make their money back for what they made for the property, but they are increasing the rents, and sometimes we've seen as much as 100%. So what we're proposing is that we change the rent increase notice from 60 days to, we're looking at a couple of different variations. So it could be remain at the 60-day notice for percentage of 6% or less. 6 to 10% will require a 90-day notice, and then 120 to 220 days written notice for anything over 10%. And that's what some of the other jurisdictions are doing. And then one of the other things under that would be the landlord cannot charge rent. The notices for rent increases to be served, because right now, anytime a landlord serves a notice under the RCW, they have a right to charge that to the tenant. And that's usually like the eviction notices. So that's one of the things that we're proposing. And then under this one also, waive the requirement for a tenant to serve the proper 20-day notice to vacate and not be penalized. So like if your landlord gave you a rent increase of 100% and you couldn't afford it, and then you're able to find housing within that 90-day period, most landlords are not going to hold a property for 90 days. So it would allow you to be able to move out sooner to secure housing. So then the next one that we're going to do updates to or propose a standard around is shared housing. What we're finding is that there is no shared housing has become a popular and a necessary type of housing in the housing market, because a lot of people can't afford to live by themselves with the amount of rent going up, and then the fact that income isn't increasing. So we would want to put some standards around that, because what we're finding is sometimes, like, I rent the house to Monique, Monique rents it to all of you guys, and I'm paying the rent. Monique's not paying me the rent, but all of you guys are paying rent, and then you're not aware that the property is in the eviction status. And so we will require that notices are served to all tenants who are living in the property that could face eviction when they're not on the master lease. Require separate leases when renting to 4 or more tenants. Require housing providers to provide the information to the owner and to the tenants about who's subletting at the property, and then prohibit housing providers from starting the unlawful detainer action if they can't show that they've served notices to all the sublet tenants. But then also require that it's listed in the thing, all the uninhabitable spaces, because what we find is people are renting spaces that they shouldn't be renting to people, such as attics and basements that haven't been approved by code. So then the next one is late fee standards. What we're finding is sometimes property owners are have late fees, but they're not trying to actively collect on those late fees. And then at the end of the tenancy, a tenant can end up with like $6,000 in late fees. And sometimes it can go back to like when they first lived in the unit, if they've been living there for a number of years, and then the owner at the end of the lease is trying to collect all of that when they haven't done it during the tenancy, and the tenant can be paying their rent on time for a period of time. But then now they're providing this information to prospective housing providers, which can be a barrier because a lot of landlords will not rent to you if you owe another landlord rent. So we just want to put some policies in place that will require the housing provider to actively take steps to address the late fees during the tenancy, and then also prohibit them from providing that information to a prospective housing provider if they haven't taken those active steps. And then also there are some suggestions on limiting the amount of late fees. So under the RLTA, there's a cap of how much a landlord can get on late fees in the eviction process, which is $75. So we could go with the $75, or there's also other jurisdictions that have caps on late fees of 3 to 5% of the monthly rent. And then the next one is restrictions on evictions if you don't have a rental business license. In the city of Tacoma, you are required to have a business license if you're renting out property, whether it's rooms, whether you're renting out the whole property, you're required to have a business license. So we're not going to say a landlord doesn't have the right to start the eviction. We just want you to be able to have the business license as you should. And because we use this as a way to do outreach, to get the information out to the housing providers when we're making updates, when we want their feedback to ensure that they are in compliance with what it takes to operate rental housing in Tacoma. So what it would look like is that you would just have to attach a copy of your business license to the show cause hearing for your show cause hearing scheduling. We intend to make the process really easy to where, like, if you don't have it, you can just go online and it's already easy. You can go online and obtain your business license really quick by just paying the fee in Tacoma. So we're not trying to stop anybody from evicting anybody because you have a right to do it. We're just wanting to make sure that you're in compliance with the law. before you do that. And then another one is possible things that we're looking at. And this one is pretty much we're asking council's permission to look into screening requirements, because what we're finding is the rental market is changing drastically, but in pay is not changing, employment and all of that. So when landlords have rent to income ratios such as 6% or 5%, and a tenant is on a fixed income, even if they've been paying the rent where they're at, we found this has happened before. They are not going to be able to afford to go look for someplace else to rent. So we would look at things like putting a cap on it, because like what used to be common is 3 times the monthly rent, or some people have it 2.5. Or we could look at just putting caps on around people that have fixed income, such as Social Security, retirement, and things like that. And then also there is some issues around landlords who require Social Security numbers in order for people to apply for housing, which, you know, violates their rights under fair housing laws in some ways. And then also it is also common that some landlords have blanket screening process for criminal evictions. So some landlords' policies say like they go by arrest records, they go by misdemeanors and things, or they'll have a blanket policy. Under fair housing laws, they're saying that you're not supposed to do that. So you're supposed to do a case-by-case basis unless it's manufacturing of drugs, sex offense, or arson. So those are the things that we're kind of looking at, asking and making the proposed changes in the state code. In the city of Tacoma Rental Housing Code. You guys have to excuse me. I'm trying to remember everything and know that I only have 10 minutes because I want to be respectful of the time so that we have time to go into the small groups. So is there any questions right now?
There's a question in the chat. It says, doesn't the housing authority require the SS, I think it's supposed to be number?
Well, no, there's other things that they can use. So in order to show that a person has income and stuff like that. So I can't really say if the housing authority, but I know that there are things around the country. There's other jurisdictions, because there's other things that a person can use to show that they have their income and everything. So there are some people that are in the country and they don't have a Social Security number, but they're here other ways. Like if they have a passport or a visa or something, they're not going to have a Social Security number. But if they can show that they can afford the unit, then yeah. So those are some of the things that's under fair housing laws. And like I said, other jurisdictions and stuff across the country have them. These are just things that either we are proposing or council has asked us to look into. So it's not that we're gonna do it automatically. Okay.
Okay, we are running behind, but I want to grab these questions for the 3 people that are up right now. So Onita or Onita, Arnold? Sorry, messing up your name. Are you there, Arnold? Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm
We
sorry.
can hear you now, yes.
Okay. There's a lot of information, as someone put in the chat. Is there a website? Is it on the website? The proposals that you are making or your group is making?
Yes, all of it is listed on the website.
Okay, thank you.
And it's detailed out, all the proposed policies. Yeah, so you can find the survey, you can find information on the proposed changes. All of that is listed on our website, and it has the breakdown of what the possible policy could be. So yes, all of that is on the City of Tacoma's website on the link that I provided.
Okay, thank you. And I also wanted to you confirm this for me, Chiqueta. You have to be a landlord or a renter in order to fill out that survey, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So the housing provider or the or renters can complete the survey. However, we're requesting input from everyone at our outreach event. So advocators and everybody, we're getting input from everybody. But the one reason why we wanted to do the renters and the housing providers is because that is how it's going to what council is looking at. So like we're trying to see like with small mom and pop landlords, how this is affecting them and everything. So we wanted to make sure that we got the input and had the data from actual housing providers. And then at the outreach events, we're going to gather information from various forms of people in the community.
Thank you.
Okay, Teresa, real quick, and then Ryan, and we'll move on because I'm way late.
So I just want to suggest that we do we have the government updates coming in 3 minutes and people show up for that. So we'll probably, Chiquita, I'm sorry. I just keep messing up your name too. We'll probably do them and then do the breakout session. So what I was thinking about during this government update time, if you wouldn't mind putting those options, kind of a shortened form of those options in the chat so that people can copy and paste it into the chat in their rooms, so that they have, because that what Anita said was true. There's a lot there for us to talk about. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm confused by your question.
So can you take kind of a short version of all of the options that you've offered that you want us to talk about in the breakout groups and post that in the chat, and so that people can take it with them into the breakout rooms?
So the breakdown that I put in the chat already about rent increase notices, shared housing, late fee standards.
Okay, where is that at? Is that
I posted it right before I started my.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect. So now, good, pointing that out to people. Go ahead and copy that and then paste it when you get into your room, so that you have a list of things that you're talking about. Thank you for that.
And that note is at chat is at 9:48 a.m. So if you scroll up to 9:48 a.m., you can find that chat.
I'll put it again. But are you saying that we're changing this part until after government updates, so we're not going right into the breakout rooms?
Yeah, we are pretty far behind, and we have people who are scheduled. So we'll do it right after the government updates.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan, real quick, what you got?
Right. Well, the summary that's on the webpage isn't the summary. You've mentioned other things, even in your description just now, that aren't on that list, like in the shared housing standards, eliminating spaces and stuff. Is there a place where the actual text of what's proposed is laid out in full so people can review it?
What did you say? I'm sorry, what did you say wasn't listed versus what I just said?
Shared housing standards, you were talking about unpermitted spaces and whatnot, but there's nothing on the webpage about that. So just kind of curious about that. You know, we're in a housing shortage, so taking away housing, even if it's not ideal,
here's
seems
what
to
I'm
be
gonna
kind of
do.
antithetical.
Now, Ryan,
it's a different wording, Ryan. I'm sorry. Okay, I just say something real quick, Monique. It is on there. It's just different wording. It says require housing providers to serve require the lease to state legal number of occupants and habitable spaces in the unit. So I might have described it different, but it is on there.
Okay, I guess the habitable spaces, I guess if there's being changes to that, I'd like to read that. Well, I mean, I just want the text of the whole thing because there's a lot of detail, and this is a bullet pointed list, obviously. So
you said you want the text for the whole thing of what?
Of what's being proposed, because
that is what's being proposed. There's no other text. That's what we're proposing, and we haven't started drafting the code yet. Okay. We don't do that until after we've met with community members.
Okay, and then one other piece is the survey. The survey is very limited in what you can respond. It's bulleted. There's no fill in the blank if the question doesn't apply. And I had a hard time going through it. There's a couple questions that I couldn't answer correctly because the correct answer wasn't one of the options. So if there's a way to kind of put other or some kind of fill in the blank, that would be helpful as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Good to see you, Ryan. Okay. Government updates. Let's run through it real quick because I am way, way behind, but that's what they get for letting me run the meeting. Okay. Caleb, are you here? The city of Tacoma.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if my camera's working. It looks like it's not for some reason. So I apologize. Oh, let me see here. Oh, there we go. Just a couple of updates. One is that we are doing the homeless service and strategy update on the 14th for study session. That's Tuesday at 12. And there will also be along with us on the agenda is the updated equity index that the city of Tacoma uses as well. So if you tune in, you'll get to hear both from the Office of Strategy and the Neighborhood and Community Services. Just as part of that update, we will be updating on the data that we have received from the ordinance 28831, that municipal code of the camping ordinance. And so you'll get to see some of the reports on that and then some of the other updates on strategy and sheltering. So that's the biggest one. We are also continuing to work with Catholic Community Services and their safe parking at Holy Rosary. They are staffing up, and that is one of the last pieces in order to start operating this location. I was also at Brotherhood Rise this week and talking with Gerald, and if you haven't been by to see some of the constructions of the micro shelters, please do stop by. We talked about good news stories, and as always, they are doing amazing work, and we are continuing to work on any kinks and stuff to finish that project. So those are the biggest updates for us, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Caleb. Jeff Rogers from Pierce County Human Services.
Hi, this is Donna. I'm filling in for Jeff.
Thank you, Donna.
Hi, the only update we have is that the HHP project applications are due March the 24th by 5:30. So all the information is on our website if you need to see it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jenny Shope from Tacoma Pierce County Public Health. Tacoma Pierce County Health.
Hi, everybody. It's Sheppy, by the way. It's a tough one. I don't blame you. And you are doing a fabulous, you're doing a fabulous job facilitating today. So thank you
so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So Gov Delivery message went out from us yesterday. For those who aren't aware, this is a monthly email that we send out. Original intent was just to contain COVID information, and now we're trying to work to expand that. So that's going to be a monthly message that goes out. The one from yesterday contained lots of information and links regarding COVID, but also information about congenital syphilis, as well as norovirus. If you are not receiving those emails, please get in touch with me. I'll drop my email in the chat for anyone who doesn't have it, and then I can add you. It's really chock full of information about communicable disease, but also environmental health. And then we're adding more information about programs at the department that are relevant to this community. So I really encourage you to get on the list to get that. Today, I'll just share a few items. One is the folks at Vallejo are welcoming anyone in this community who needs a COVID vaccine to come to a clinic that they will be hosting at Shiloh Baptist Church Shelter on the 18th. So that's March 18th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 1121 I Street. And I will share that information in the chat. CDC recently deployed some self-service test and go COVID test kit kiosks. That's a mouthful, to provide contact-free COVID-19 testing at no cost to folks. These kiosks are open 24 hours a day. And there's one right now in Spanaway. And then by next week, we're hoping that 2 more will be coming online in Spanaway and one out in Browns Point. And then we're also hoping to have one at the 3629 South D Street location of the health department. So that's very exciting. Another testing update, COVID testing update, is that the Say Yes to the COVID Test program at the state level is actually going to be ending on May 11th. This is the program where you could get online and order free test kits. So Do order test kits before that program goes away. But the federally supplied free at-home test kit program remains. So I will share those links. You can always reach out to us if you or your organization needs more one-on-one or more like in-person testing support. We're still able to do that for folks. And that is all I have. And I think Isaiah has a few things, so I'll hand it over to him. If you have questions, let me know. I'll be in the chat until the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Isaiah.
Hello, hello. So my internet's being a little funky, so if I start jittering out, let me know. But hi, I'm Isaiah. I am the Environmental Health Homeless Liaison, also for TPCHD. So I have some quick updates before I go into some data, because I know people here are pretty interested in data sets that we have, especially when inclement weather happens. So the first brief is that next week is Collaboration for the Cause, which is going to be through Pierce County Community Engagement. I will be there, so TPCHD will have a table. So it's going to be me and my coworker Rachel Hauser, who is a staffer at our Family Resource Center. So we're going to have things like COVID test kits. We're going to have some information. We're going to have some children's toys and books and stress balls and some other information as well. And a very fancy tablecloth and a very fancy table. So if you want to come over and say hi to me on next Thursday, it's at the Puyallup Pavilion, which I know there's an address somewhere floating around. There's also a there's also a flyer somewhere floating around. So on top of that, there's also going to be an opioid summit, which is happening on the 23rd, I believe, which is also going to be at the Puyallup Pavilion. So also there's a flyer for that I can share with folks when we get down to it. But those are my brief updates. So quickly, I can go through data as best I can. There are some data sets here. And I know the data can be a little confusing, so I'm going to try and shorten it as best I can. And if folks have questions for me, let me know. I might not have the answer, but I can definitely go back to folks and ask the data people on our team to give us some more clarification. So let's see. Okay, so this data set is from the February 19th incident to March 5th, which is our last cold weather cycle. So in total, there were 28 cold-related ED visits. So, and then 6 of them were specifically people that were identified as houseless. And just for those of you that don't know, this is through Essence. And so Essence only classifies someone as being houseless or homeless when the provider, so the doctor or the nurse or whoever, identifies them as being such. They don't always ask them that information. So it's usually through visual identification. So this corresponds to a rate of about 16.8 per 10,000 ED visits. All the ones that were required to go into the hospital were not houseless. So all the ones that required hospitalizations were people that were housed, or at least identified as housed. There were 3 that were due to frostbite. One of those was due to, one of them was houseless. One of them was hypothermia. So that's a little confusing. The way they phrase this is not super clear, right? So in total, there were 3 frostbite incidents for ED, so emergency department visits. One of them was houseless. And of those one person that was houseless, they also had to go in for hypothermia. I know it's not super clear. The data set is not. I'm just trying to understand as best I can too, so bear with me on this. And I'm happy to answer questions on the side too if you would like this information more in detail. There were also no carbon monoxide related incidents. So there was no one going into the hospital or urgent care because of carbon monoxide poisoning. There were also 2 ED visits for burns. So 2 folks that were injured due to fire injury through their tent. So both of those individuals were identified as homeless. And then of course, there were 6 people that were entered into ED visits for immersion foot, which is a lot, but I was told by our department that is actually not above the baseline. So from the 19th to the 5th, there were 6 people that were identified as houseless that were going in for immersion foot. So I know that's not super clear. Some of the information was a little bit garbled. I know I talk really fast, right? So if there are people that have questions about that data, I'm very happy to take those questions, and I can take that back to my data people and just say, hey, there's some clarification that people here would like to know, especially as we're planning better for cold weather incident system information that could be really, really helpful. I do know there were also some deaths that occurred from that cycle. Right now, the medical examiner is still trying to get some more information about that. There was a huge data backstall, so we're still waiting on some more finalization. But I'm happy to kind of update that when we meet again next week, or if folks would like to learn that information in an email, yeah, I can put that in the listserv as well. So anyway, that was a lot of information. Some of it may be really, really boring, but I'm here for questions if people have it.
Thank you so much, Isaiah. Okay, Jody Ferguson, Pierce County Emergency. Are you here, Jody? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No Jody. Okay, I'm sure Jody will be here next time with some updates for us. So I think that is all the updates. So instead of this breakout review, we're going to go to the breakout. Is that correct, Teresa? Are we ready?
I think that sounds fine. I want to warn people that you will lose the chat. If you're someone who likes to save the chat, save it now, because it often goes away when you go into the breakout room. And then Takata, did you repost that? Make sure you get, there it is. So go up to the rental code proposed changes, and somebody, if everybody copies that, then it's bound to make it to the room. And then we'll have Timothy's, Timothy, can you stay and do the review after the breakout room?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So
also, I want to caution people, never take notes from your breakout sessions directly into the chat window, because that also disappears when you come back to the larger group.
thank you for that. That happened to me. So if you're ready to go, I'm going to make this into the right number of rooms, and let's see how it goes. See you soon.
All right. So we are going to now have Timothy review the last breakout session.
So
When he
first,
unmutes.
before you review the last breakout session, here, what Monique and I sent you off into the room without saying, please have somebody be take notes. So this is the request that I'm sorry, Timothy, for that. That's my bad. If you have something that you feel that you can contribute, please post it in the chat. If someone did take notes in the room, bless your hearts. If you didn't, please put your individual things in, and then Timothy can do his best to gather from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that, Teresa. I think most people probably took notes. People are pretty used to the group chat drill. So last time, I just dropped the PDF of the notes into the chat. So if anyone just wants to click on that so that they've got the document on their own desktop, feel free to do so. We talked about what keeps us going in the face of whatever can feel like tough news. And this is one for people to, download and take a look at every once in a while, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. So a short summary of things that people said keep us going: practicing gratitude, supportive loved ones, revolution. We were just talking about revolution in our little group, and we all decided it's time. Being present, doing the small things that need to be done. A lot of people talked about self-care, establishing and upholding boundaries, the practice of just starting every day with a task list and doing weekly reflection to see how you did. Observing that the younger generation is more empathetic to social issues, the kids are all right thing. Debating, changing people's minds, getting conversations started, staying grounded, scheduling monk time where we're focusing on one thing without distractions, remembering the idea of fire and ice, being passionate but not so passionate you burn yourself out, remembering to highlight success, focusing on things that we can do as opposed to what we can't. Remembering that single small successes are a big deal, especially to the people that they're happening to. Seeing people get housing, huge reward. taking a lot of joy in the network, and I'll come back to that later. And then there is a sort of list of things that I'm not going to go into too deeply, but worth taking a look at, which is just, there's so much work that we need to do together. And that's actually kind of a motivation for people, is just knowing how much there is to do and that it takes all of us. And then finally, the thing that almost everybody said in their group roundups is that we inspire each other, and that this group here meeting every Friday goes a long ways to keeping a lot of us going. And that is it.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that thorough recap. Next, we have advocacy updates. Do we have any advocacy updates?
So I have one that Rob asked me to share with you all, and it is in the agenda. This is about the, and some of you may have more to say about this, so I do want you to think about it if you have something to add. That the proposal that's taking place right now, it is under advocacy updates on your agenda, and it's the Lakewood proposed camping ban. When you first look at it, Rob directs you to you can get the document, and you can also get to page 48, but it's actually from page 45 to 49 where the whole thing takes place. And there's a lot of verbiage in there about protecting wetlands. But if you drill down to what is actually being said, it is saying that any camping on public property will be banned if this passes, will be banned as long as there's an open shelter bed within 35-mile radius of the county, of the city courthouse. So just to know, that's a pretty extreme example of NIMBYism that is not, it's not even their city limits, it's 35-mile radius. And they do say they plan to provide transportation. I don't know if anyone from Lakewood who is in this, who is part of this ban proposal is here. If they are, I do want to give you an opportunity to speak to that. But anyone who has more information about it, other than what we see in that document that Rob provided for us. And also please take note that if you are a Lakewood resident, it is going to come up at the meeting on the 20th, and it is open to all. So anyone have more to add about this particular proposed camping ban? Ed.
I think it's the Tacoma method all over again. We're going to get rid of people. If we don't like them, or we don't like the way they look, we're going to sweep them, give them a bus ticket to somewhere, and get them out of our town. And that's what happened in 1885 with the Chinese in Tacoma. So it's the same thing.
Same animal, different stripes.
That's right.
Right. We were discussing that in the breakout when we were in this room. We were discussing that.
Can I just ask if you are not muted, would you please make sure you are muted? Sorry, Monique, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was just saying we were talking about the same thing. Okay, Teresa, any more on that ban?
So I do encourage you to take a look at it. It's sometimes when you read the documents that are put out, you realize that there aren't very many people actually reading them, or there would probably be some outcry about it. Please take a look at it, respond to it, let other people know. If you know people who will be affected by this, including people who are unhoused and in that area, have conversations if you can, and attend the meeting. Any other advocacy updates from other quarters? We have the ones about the food insecurity. We have some work we can do there. And please do check in the chat for those. We have some things about rental issues that we can respond to now that we've given that a little more thought. I hope that was a good conversation. And Sally has something, because Sally is a super advocate.
Well, I just track all this stuff. At the county, the land use amendments that are necessary for the Pierce County Village to move forward are moving forward through the county process. And I believe the final vote on that and the vote to release the funds for the Pierce County Village are currently scheduled for the March 21st County Council meeting. That may change if there's still details to be worked out. It might get moved forward, later out into March or whatever, but I want to just alert people that that's on the move, with the intent, I think, of getting a decision from the council relatively quickly. If there's any updated information about that, I'll put it in the listserv.
Isn't this the third time they've moved that decision?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to the land use piece and to the questions that the council has had about how it will work and to feel comfortable releasing the money. And there's not agreement between the Dems and Republicans on the council about what those criteria ought to be. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to keep it moving, but also get the major questions answered. So
Monique, do you want to take over, or do you want me to keep?
Yep, sorry, I didn't know I was muted. Joe?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I actually just wanted to mention the Candlewood Suites. I know that, because we had talked about it for a while, but the Candlewood Suites, we did get the keys for that building now. And we just got that a couple weeks ago. We have to do, the same thing like with any building that we get. We have to, call in for an abatement. We do all that, to get that done before we'll be able to open it. There's 77, there'll be 77 units there for individuals experiencing homelessness. That is a right-of-way project. So that will be individuals from, like bridges right off the freeway, et cetera. That's where we'll be getting those individuals from. That's a lot of the clients right now that we will be bringing into Candlewood Suites is actually currently at the Hometown Studios. So we've already been getting individuals in. So we've already been working on that. We just been having them at the Hometown Studios, been getting rooms for them. And so once Candlewood is fully done and transferred, while we're setting up fences, we're making sure that we're getting all of our coding correct and, some of our permits for certain things. So while we're doing that, they'll be at Hometown Studios. And then once we open up, we'll be transferring over to Lakewood to the Candlewood Suites, which was renamed Marine Howard, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So that's super exciting. I think it's beautiful. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and touch bases on that as just kind of a small update.
Thank you. Rosemary?
I just wanted to go back briefly to the 0.1% at the county council. And I sent out an alert last week with actions that people could take. I'll send that out again today. I wanted to really recommend that anyone who lives in one of the districts that currently is less supportive of the tax really reach out to their representatives. That's the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd district. Amy Kruver, I've forgotten the one in the 1st district now. And my brain is dead. And the, Dave Morrell. Dave Morrell. And so to reach out to them and give your perspective as a constituent, it's important for people in the 27th who are very active here on this call to be important and to be saying things as well. It's just that having people in their districts is really important. So I want to encourage everyone to take some action this week and hopefully be at the county council meeting on the 21st, hoping that that's actually when it will happen.
Thank you. Last question or comment from Madeline.
Hi, yes, Joe, this is for you. Could you drop your contact information? I work over here at TRM Outreach, and I've heard you talk a few times and I always miss your contact information. So if you could drop that in for me so that I can figure out how to contact you.
Absolutely, I would do that.
Just typing a message to ask the same thing.
So I would be dropping that in there. I'm also dropping the address. I see someone else that asked about the address for the Marine Howard. I know, because I know we got to convert that what we're used to. Yeah, but the Marine Howard, formerly known as Candlewood in Lakewood. Absolutely, I'll do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Mrs. Runbeck, can you give us a little update on safe sites for all?
Absolutely. We'll be talking we started as a Safe Parking Network weekly meeting, and it's now expanded to Safe Sites for All. So government shows up, providers show up. We're anxious to support the new Holy Rosary Safe Parking Site. We'll be talking about inclement weather, past, current, and future. So please join us every Monday at noon. Register to Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any committee updates? Sounds like no committee updates. I'm gonna move forward. No committee updates. All right. Good trouble announcements. Does anyone have any good trouble announcements? Faith?
Yes, so I will put a quick summary and some links in the chat for everyone, and my contact info, so everyone has that. So I came across a grant from the UWT Human Rights, what is it, department or something? Yeah, I'm minoring in human rights at UWT. I'm a sophomore, and I've been working on a project to kind of organize mutual aid outreach between groups. I've been working on this with Jay and Kenneth a little bit, and due to health reasons, I only recently have been able to reach out to mutual aid groups and orgs to ask if there could be a letter of like partnership that could be used in this application. So it's just within this application, you have to have a letter of an org that you're partnering with to give legitimacy to your project and hold you accountable and make sure that you're doing everything that you said you were doing. And so this ask is just for a letter of partnership from really any org focused on housing justice and mutual aid. And there's about $4,000 available. And I created a proposal for everyone to look at and share around. And this is the partnership proposal, not the official application that I would be submitting, which would be a little bit more detailed. And the purpose of this whole project is just to use these funds to just like, I don't know, alleviate some of the financial stresses and also like have extra support for this community and actually just try to see if we can coordinate a little bit more on our mutual aid and outreach efforts, and of course prioritizing sustainability and mental health and anti-racism, disability justice, inclusivity while we are doing that. And this is based on Dean Spade's mutual aid book and Usage's recommendations for outreach. So that's the goal, and just to write down what we do and then take that to city council and show them that we did what they signed up to do and are paid for. And it's more of like, we're not asking you anymore, we're doing it. So that's where I'm coming from with this, and I hope anyone who's interested in learning more reaches out. The application deadline is the 18th, which sucks because I only just got better, so it's very close. I understand if people, you know, are really busy, and I think that's it. Yeah, just check out the proposal, please, and about the grant, because Osheroff was a cool person too. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Faith. And Teresa asked if you could send an invitation through the listserv and probably explain what you need so that maybe somebody in the listserv can help you out. Okay, Mr. Jacobs.
Well, hello. I wanted to remind everybody or put it on your calendar March 26th at 5 o'clock, we will have a homeless memorial at Shiloh Baptist Church for all of the folks that died in December, January, and February that were homeless and or we couldn't find their families. So please put it on your calendar. It's a Sunday evening, usually about an hour and a half.
Ed, will anybody record that or go live on that anywhere?
Yes, it will be streamed live on the Facebook page for the Homeless Memorial.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jay, you're welcome. Jay?
Monique, are you guys still doing the fundraiser for FOB on the 1st of April?
We sure are.
Awesome. I just wanted to bring it up since it's good news.
All right, thank you very much. 1st of April. Tammy, real quick, it's good news. Tell them quick about the fundraiser.
I can tell you quickly about the fundraiser. It is going to be April 1st. It's at the Puyallup Elks from 5 to 9. Dinner is served from 5:30 to 6:30. The comedy show will start at 7. And the 5 stand-up comedians we have also perform at the Tacoma Comedy Club. So they are donating their time to this fundraiser. The bar will be open, just, throwing that out there in case that makes your decision to go or not go. If you need a table reserved for your group or organization, let us know, and you can email me that information. All the proceeds for the fundraiser will be going towards the FOB Veterans Village, to essential items and such. So it'll be a dinner, comedy show, and silent auction.
And a special guest from Los Angeles, California will be there. You should show up.
Yeah, the boss is coming into town. So let's not make Tammy look bad and nobody show up. The dinner tickets, show tickets are $15 a piece, and you can buy them at the door. Yes.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Tammy. So any success stories you want to share? We've got about 6 minutes. I don't know how that happened because I was way behind. Any success stories want to be shared? All right, Janet.
Yes, about a week and a half ago, I was with the group from this coalition at the Union Avenue Loop, helping serve a hot meal to the folks who are camped there. And a man showed up who was also going to be serving food the next day. And his name is Pastor Roman. And he told me his story that up until, I see nodding heads here, up until 5 years ago, he himself was living houseless in encampments on the streets of Tacoma. 5 years ago, he and his wife also who was living a life of addiction, substance use disorders, mental health issues, living on the streets of Tacoma. 5 years ago, they turned their lives around, and he is now Pastor Roman on the church on South 56th Street. His wife has gone to school and is a registered nurse and is does treatment for substance use disorder patients. And he's also a counselor at Tacoma Recovery Cafe. So that is, I think we need to recognize those who've been through this journey, and there is hope, regardless of the barriers that we are witnessing every day. There are still folks that actually do pull out. And so on behalf of Pastor Roman and all those who do come out the other side, and all of us who try to help, thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Teresa, and then Madeline and Sally, and that should round us out. Okay.
I'm yielding the floor to Richard because he has good news about the Union Loop encampment.
Okay, Richard.
Oh, sorry, I was chewing. Just in the last couple of weeks, as we take out food, we get to know people. As we get to know them, we find their situations. Yesterday, a man named Paul they just arrived from North Dakota. He has a job interview on Monday, And we were able to get him some clothing down at St. Vincent's so that he can dress as appropriate as possible on Monday when he goes to his job interview. So that's a step of success. And with Jan and Dana and Teresa and others that have been going out there, one woman got into shelter, a couple is pending a return to Minnesota, one man went into CMAR drug treatment. I mean, these are, another woman got a job, went out, got a job on her own. So we're trying to provide the support, because if you're living in a tent, even if you've got a job, it's tough to get the necessary rest, personal hygiene, all that kind of stuff. So small steps of success are going on at Union Loop. Nothing's perfect there, but these people are, we're connecting with them, and Dana's connecting them with some of their resources, and we're serving food again this afternoon at 3:45 if anybody ever wants to come out and kind of see how all this works when we're out there. But they know us now, we're knowing them, and finding out more about how we can help connect them with the resources they may need. So anyway, it's fairly good news.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Madeline, in 30 seconds, go.
Oh, hey guys, thanks, Richard. And yes, we've been coming out there helping out with the Union Loop, and we are actually getting people that want to come to shelter, so that's awesome. But a big victory for us is we are actually getting more people into housing, and it is happening quick, and we are actually very impressed. So we wanted to share that with you.
All right, thank you. Nothing like getting people into housing. Sally, 30 seconds, go.
Big thank you to Dion Jacobson at St. Vincent. Provided us some hand warmers. We bought a whole bunch, but we ran out of money to buy them ourselves. And so she provided some to us. And on a day when the resource center was closed, she still made it happen. So she rocks.
Very awesome. Thank you for rocking. Okay, look at that, 10:58. My goodness. So I want to say one last thing before we go. There is so much happening in this world today. There was a stabbing at UW. There was a shooting in Lakewood. People are having family issues. I have a friend who's in hospice, and she's only 50 with pancreatic cancer. So what I can say to you right now is that you need to make sure you're telling everyone you know that you love them, because you never know what's coming next, okay? I love you guys all because of what you do and because you're human beings. And thank you for staying for my first time hosting. Have
We
a good
love
one.
you
Oh,
too,
and
Monique.
thank you so much. And if you want to stick around for planning for the next meeting, please stay. We'll do that in about 10 minutes. Thank you all. Have a blessed day.